Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 6 of the Hammer the Over podcast. I'm your host, Austin Groft, alongside Ethan French. And this episode is not going to be as long as normal because we don't have that much to talk about. But next week, we do have a huge episode for you guys since the NFL season is right around the corner. And before I get started here, I'd like to mention that you can see our picks on Twitter at Hammer the Over podcast. Oh, I don't know the exact Twitter handle. It's in the description.
It's at Hammer the Over with an underscore at the end. The H and the O are capitalized.
There you go. And then we're also on Spotify too. So if you don't want to listen on YouTube because you have to exit out of it, you can go and listen to it on our Spotify.
Yep.
But honestly, I didn't really put out that many locks the week last week just because I've been busy since the first week of college and stuff. But I'm going to start getting into it here more.
Kind of a weird week too.
Yeah.
We went on a 4-day hiatus. NBA players were protesting their games. So yeah, there was 4 days. There was no basketball to watch. Nothing. I mean, I don't bet on baseball, so there for 4 days I wasn't really betting on anything. Although I would like to say that in my last 6 picks, I am 5-1. Thank you, Connor. Had a 3-0 day, I believe, last Thursday, riding the Nuggets, their money line, Jamal Murray's points, and the Nuggets Jazz over. So
there's just some big time picks. I was hyped when you went 3-0 that one day with those Nugget picks with the ones you just said. That was really impressive. And then you said Jamal Murray's points over, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was he's just been going off. Like he
has 142 points in his last 3 games.
Yeah.
It's just nuts.
He's just a bucket carrying I wouldn't say carrying, but like,
I mean, honestly, to some extent he has.
Yeah.
I mean, Jokic had a good game. What would have been 5? But last night he only had 22. So yeah, it was a Jamal Murray show last night.
Yeah, I think honestly, my prediction when we had Denny, remember Denny said this is going to Game 7. He had that right. So shout out to Denny Atkinson for that pick. But I'm hoping the Nuggets come out with a win in this one. I just love watching Jamal Murray. I like Jamal Murray more than Donovan Mitchell. And I just feel like the Nuggets have a better overall roster. You know, the Jazz do kind of live and die by the 3 since they have like the highest 3-point percentage in the league. But they did shoot 50% from the 3 yesterday. I guess it was just Donovan Mitchell. They just couldn't stop him. It was a close game early, but then the Nuggets pulled away there in the fourth quarter.
They had a comfortable 10-point lead most of that fourth quarter and wrapping it up there. So, yeah, that was a big one for the Nuggets. Definitely looking forward to that Game 7. Like you said, Jamal Murray's just absolutely going off.
Mm-hmm.
He really does it all. The 3, he creates his own shots. He's a fun player to watch.
Yeah, and like I said, we always start with our picks, but since I didn't really make any last week, especially with the NBA going down, there's nothing really to talk about there. Baseball news, nothing really much has really happened. Just like there was a crazy game yesterday with the Phillies and the Braves.
Did they come back and win that?
They didn't, but they were down 10-0 and they came back and made it like a 1 or 2 point game. Obviously the Sixers fired Brett Brown. We talked about that last week. Still, they don't really know who they're gonna hire yet. There hasn't been really much talk about what they're going to do in the future. But yeah, and then for NBA news, basically French covered that too. There was that whole thing.
We got some other Bucks wrapped up their series, which was expected.
Mm-hmm.
Lakers won that series 4-1. Just like I said, everyone was freaking out about the Lakers. Oh, they lose game 1. Woe is me. The Lakers are toast, but I know the Blazers. The Blazers played that Game 5 close, especially without Damian Lillard, so props to them. But Lakers just look like a great team right now.
Yeah.
Bron goes for 36, 10, and 10 with 80 putting up 43. Who's going to stop that?
LeBron hitting 4 threes that were pretty deep, all of them looking like those threes that he hit were sick.
Yeah.
They were crazy shots. And that triple-double was really impressive too for LeBron. You know, getting some good minutes off the bench from Kuzma and Dwight Howard in this series. Caruso's been playing really well too. So overall, it looks like they're finally starting to click. Maybe it was just like during the bubble season, they just weren't ready. They weren't focused, but now they're actually engaged and they're ready to take care of business.
I agree. Rockets took a 3-2 lead in their series behind a pretty nice night from James Harden. They will play Game 6 tonight, looking to close that out. They are currently favored. I think they'll win that game tonight. I think it'll be close because Dennis Schroeder is very hot, and I think Game 6 or Game 5 on Saturday would have been a lot closer had he not gotten ejected. That being said, Russell Westbrook he was what, 3 of 13?
Yeah, he's 3 of 13 with 7 points.
7 points in 23 minutes. So it was a rough first game back, but you probably could have expected that.
Great game from Covington. He had 22 points, shooting 6 for 11 from the 3. But honestly, I agree with you too. I think this is going to be a close game. Hopefully I want the Rockets to win tonight in 6. I think they're going to, especially since Westbrook's back now. But it's going to be a close game. Thunder scorers, only 2 starters had double figures. All the other starters had 1, 4, and 6 points respectively, which is not what you want. Those points combined for 11 points of your 3 stars, which is not what you want as a NBA playoff team. So they're going to have to shoot better, shooting only 31% from the field, 15% from the 3. 7 of 46 from the 3. That's not going to win you any basketball games. So they're going to have to shoot the ball better. They only scored 80 points is probably a season low for them. Playoff low and bubble low for sure, because they have not scored. I haven't seen any team score like 80 points in a competitive series like this.
Yeah. It was a rough game for them.
Yeah. So that's why I would lean towards the Rockets, the Thunder +5 tonight. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's a lot because you never know. The Rockets just come out and torch them again. But I do think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, I also agree. Looking back at Sunday's game, the Eastern Conference semis got underway with the Celtics and the Raptors, and the Celtics really just had a dominant performance. They got up early. They held the lead the entire time. They had 6 players in double figures, I believe, including all 5 starters. So yeah, it was a great game for them. On the flip, a terrible game for the Raptors. Yeah. Siakam goes 5 of 16 with 13 points. Van Vliet goes 3 of 16, 2 of 11 from 3.
Yeah, he would have could not hit a 3.
He couldn't, and that was his bread and butter against the Nets in their opening series. He was raining threes like it was nobody's business. So yeah, the Raptors only shot 25% as a team from 3. They ended up losing this one by 18. So, yeah. Celtics look like a great team right now.
Yeah, it's crazy, too, that the Celtics, had that many players in double figures, and it's not like it was one player doing it all.
Their high scorer was Tatum and Marcus Smart tied at 21.
Which is, Kemba
really had
impressive.
18, Jaylen Brown had 17, Daniel Tice had 13, and then Williams, the third off the bench, had 10.
He had a really good game.
He's a fun player to watch.
Yeah, he is fun to watch. That's just impressive. You're having that many starters play that well, and playing just overall good team basketball. If you have that many people who can score, it's hard defensively. Who do you pick out? Who do you stop?
Exactly.
And Tatum can go off at any time, so
yeah,
that's good for the other starters. To pick up some slack when But Tatum had a good game. It's not like he played bad.
Yeah, exactly. With that being said, though, I think this is going to be a longer series. I would not be surprised if it went 6 or 7 games, mainly because I feel like they play into each other's strengths pretty well. The Celtics are a good defensive team, but I feel like they're more known for their offensive firepower. Between Tatum can score, Kemba can score, Jaylen Brown can score. I know there's no more Gordon Hayward, but Marcus Smart is a nice player for them, so... But then if you look at the Raptors, incredible defensive team. I think I'm guessing Siakam's guarding him, but the Siakam-Tatum matchup will be an interesting one to watch throughout the series. In addition to the Kemba and Kyle Lowry / Van Vliet. I think those are some interesting matchups that will definitely dictate the series.
And Nick Nurse is going to turn things around with that great coach. He's not going to let that slide for multiple games in a row. Van Vliet, I feel like he was forcing shots too down the stretch. They were trying to hit that big shot to come back. Like, it seems like they weren't taking a possession at a time. They're trying to win the game back in one possession, which you can't do. And he was just like pulling from three, even though he kept missing, and he was taking horrible shots. So maybe like they need to work the ball more on offense and get the looks that they've been doing in the previous games. They just didn't look like a team that game.
Yeah. We already talked about that Nuggets Jazz game yesterday. The other game yesterday that concluded the series, the Clippers beat the Mavericks by 14 to win the series 4-2. Dominant game 5 win. But yeah, it was a tough look for the Mavericks, especially without Porzingis. That was kind of unfortunate because I think the series could have gone to 7 had Porzingis played. But yeah, Luka with another monster night, 38, 9 and 9. He's just a freak. There's nothing else you can say about it.
Yeah.
The one thing from that game, Kawhi looks like a beast, but dude, Marcus Morris, I talk about you every week and how bad you are, but then you go out and you do this shit.
Yeah,
First you step
for.
on his ankle in Game 5, which, it's a bad look, but you probably could have played that off. And then you just flat out slap him in the face? Like, who does that? You're not some big tough bully. Dude, Marcus Morris, you're like the nerd that works for the superhero. Like, Kawhi Leonard's your rock. You're just one of his little goonies that thinks he's good. You're not tough. You're not a bully. So, don't like, why are you, then you stand up to Luka after you slap him like you're some big tough guy. Like, what's the point of it? Marcus Morris, you're trash, dude.
I was really impressed with Kawhi Leonard this game. His outside jumper was crazy.
Yeah.
He was just pulling it, squaring up to people in their face, knocking them down. The Mavericks tried a couple things defensively. I wasn't surprised they didn't double him as much. It's like you're defending him. Like, obviously he can go right around you. But there was that one play where Seth Curry just got up in his grill and took that one dribble to the left and just went up and slammed it. There was no help defense. The defense looked bad for the Mavericks. And they just continued to let Kawhi Leonard just pull up from mid-range and knock it down. And that's his game. That's where his strong suit's at.
I agree. I still am not a believer in the Clippers because, like, this series was entirely Kawhi. Like, Paul George had a good game 5, but game 6 he has 15 on 6 of 19 from shooting. He looks awful. Just he looks out of it. There's nothing else. There's no other way to describe it. He's shooting the ball terribly, and I think that could catch up to him.
And your potential 6th man of the year, Lou Williams, only had 5 points, and Montrezl Harrell only had 4 points.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not like they played well either.
Yeah, neither of them played that many minutes, but still,
Lou Williams shot 1 for 9 from the field. Like, that's really bad.
Exactly. They're not shooting the ball well, and this is, if I was, a basketball bettor or fan, which I am, I would be far more worried about the Clippers than I would be the Lakers. But all the focus is on the Lakers. So yeah, I'm worried about this Clippers team. I don't know if the Nuggets necessarily have what it takes to beat them should they make it to the Western semis. I don't think they really match up well against this Clippers team because they don't really have anyone who can play. Like, Jeremy Grant is a nice player, but I don't think he's going to be able to slow down Kawhi near enough. So that's my take on that. But Clippers do not look like a good team right now.
So I guess moving on, the only other series we really can talk about that starts tonight is the Bucks and Heat.
I'm really excited for this series.
Same. I'm also very excited.
I think this is a very overlooked series. The Bucks haven't been playing the best basketball. I know they did, they won their series in 5 games against the Magic, but the Magic are not a good team. They're injured. That should have been an easy 4-game sweep for them, but, it didn't happen. I think the Heat match up fairly well against them. They have a few guys that could step up and play Giannis between.
I think it's going to be Bam. I think they're going to put Bam on
they're going to largely play. I think Butler's gonna play Middleton, which is a great matchup,
That's gonna be a
especially
clamp
for the
central.
Heat. Yeah, Chris Middleton's looked bad, and I think he's gonna look even worse
That's
when
honestly
Jimmy
an easier
Butler's on
matchup
him.
than T.J. Warren.
Exactly, and then Adebayo on Giannis, I'm assuming. Um, but yeah, I think it's gonna be a fun series. The Heat, we've talked about it before, they play great team basketball and they have a lot of guys who can come in and score on any given night.
Just like watching both of them in the bubble so far, I feel like I would feel more comfortable betting on the Heat than I would the Bucks.
I would also feel more comfortable.
Just like I talked about last week, there's so many other factors in the Heat offense that have actually been helping rather than just it's not even like Bam scoring. Like Bam, there's been games where he
Bam's
just
not even like their higher scoring.
yeah,
Like,
he's just like a great team player. Like he has a really good plus minus ratio. I touched on that a couple weeks ago, I think. But he, is just there. He's a defensive presence and he's like a leader for them. And that's what, like, in the long run, you don't necessarily be a scorer to be an all-star. And like if you can stop Giannis, that's gonna win you games.
yeah, exactly. I think the Bucks are gonna have to step up their shooting. They've really struggled with that. They need a third, like a second player that can consistently score, and a third player that'll consistently give them good minutes. Whereas the Heat, you look at Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Goran Dragic has had a great bubble. Is Kendrick Nunn playing?
Um, I don't know. There's that
I
other
believe he's
dude.
playing.
What's that?
Duncan Robinson.
Duncan Robinson. Yeah.
What's his face? Tyler Hero.
Tyler Hero. He's coming. He's been playing good too.
They have a
All
lot
around,
of players who play good ball.
I'm going back to look at their last game that they had against.
But then looking at the regular season series, the Heat actually took 2 of the 3 games in the regular season series, and there's something to be said about playoff basketball versus regular season basketball. But I think this is a series that could very easily go 7 games. So yeah, and looking back at the first 2 games, the Heat won the first one in overtime. And that was from a really good showing from the Bucks starters. Giannis, all 5 of their starters in that game were in double figures, and they still lost. So I don't know what to say about that. I think the Heat are coming, and I don't think the Bucks are prepared.
So I guess we basically touched on all the series. I mean, there's nothing else that I really want to talk about. I mean, the one thing I did notice with the Lakers game yesterday that was like, not yesterday, 2 days ago, that like, it was like, wow, people are really like, they're starting to get worried about LeBron was the Blazers tried doing a box in one zone on him, which is like, it didn't work out, but that just like surprised me that an NBA team tried doing a box in one zone. I've never seen that before, honestly.
Yeah.
Like that was crazy. Just like now, playoff LeBron's back. Teams are starting. Like if I were the Rockets coming out, I think the Rockets are coming out against the Thunder, but I would be worried because they honestly don't have anyone who's going to be able to guard him.
Yeah, they don't. And I think like the Rockets have been a dangerous team in the playoffs for teams like the Warriors in the past few years, but they've also kind of played into the Warriors scheme a little bit, where the Warriors also kind of played some small ball where they didn't really have a true center. They kind of try and play Draymond in that role, who sucks. But I don't think the Rockets play the kind of basketball that will beat the Lakers in a series. I think the Rockets could easily get really hot and win a game, or even possibly 2 because Harden and Russ could combine for something like 75 points, and that's just gonna be tough to stop. But who are the Lakers? Start 3 guys over what, 6'9"?
Yeah, you got LeBron, JaVale McGee, and AD.
And how tall? PJ Tucker's gonna be the tallest starter.
He's like 6'7".
I don't even know if he's that. But like the tallest guy they play in their rotation is Jeff Green.
The Lakers just got to force him off the perimeter and not
PJ
allow him to
Tucker's
do the
6'5".
threes.
Like they're not.
That's
even,
it.
Yeah. I think that's bad news for the Rockets.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So that honestly pretty much wraps up this episode. Like, sorry we had a short one, but
you got any picks you really like here?
Today or like tomorrow?
Yeah.
I guess today won't really work out because I don't know if I'll have this out in time. But Looking at tomorrow's games, the Celtics and Raptors go back at it again. And there's the game 7 of Jazz Nuggets. I think the Nuggets come out and win that one.
I also like the Nuggets to come out and win that one. Looking at my book, they don't even have a spread established. You're just picking the winner because it's a coin flip. I think that the Nuggets have had 2 very good-looking wins in a row. I'd like to ride the hot hand. They did win their first-round series in 7 games last year, so yeah. I just think they're a better team all around. But yeah, then also looking at the other game tomorrow is the Raptors and the Celtics. The Raptors are slim favorites at -125. The spread is currently 1.5. What do you think?
I might just watch this one just to see what happens again, just for entertainment too. I want to see if the Celtics truly are gonna come out and win this one easily. But I think this series could easily go to the distance. But before I want to make a bet on this, I would rather watch it than actually be confident about placing a bet.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's so hard to placing a bet with no home court advantage. You never know.
Yeah.
These games, it's so hard.
It's kind of annoying because it's like you're betting on the same game every time.
And it's so hard.
With no home court advantage, it's.
Yeah, and the factors don't even change. It's it's the same team playing the same team. You don't know how a player's feeling. You don't know maybe this is gonna happen. There's no inside sources of telling you why this team's gonna win. It's literally just saying, I think this team's gonna win because maybe they didn't play as well. They'll come back and win the next game, or maybe the Celtics are just that good and they're gonna blow them out again. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to choose.
I'm going to put out a more concrete pick tomorrow. However, my initial gut feeling's telling me the Raptors. I don't think the Raptors will shoot as bad as what they did in 2 straight games. And if they do, then they called my bluff. But we're talking about 13 points from Siakam, 11 from Van Vliet. Those are just bad numbers from your 2 leaders. And, I'm not saying the Celtics won't shoot as well as what they did. But I'm certainly not expecting all 5 of their starters to be in double figures again. So that's my take on that game. And yeah.
All right. So that pretty much wraps up this episode 6 of Hammer the Over podcast. And next week, you got to stay tuned because we're going to have a monster episode for you guys. We're going to be going through every single team in the NFL, predictions, looking at their schedules. French and I are going to predict what we think their record's going to be and how, if they do make the playoffs, how they will do in the playoffs. And we've got a lot to talk about. There's been a lot of off-season moves, been a lot of new players in new areas. So we'll hit all of it next week.
For sure. I'm incredibly invested in the NFL this year, especially because there will be unfortunately, no Penn State football this fall. Kevin Warren's a moron. That's a different story. But yeah, we're looking at I definitely want to take a look at all of the Week 1 NFL games as well as futures. And in terms of NFL futures, I'm talking divisional winners, and looking at a bunch of win lines for every team. Over-unders and those, who's going to win the AFC, who's going to win the NFC, all that good stuff. It's going down. So stay tuned for that. Should be an awesome episode.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the episode as well next week. I can't wait for it. But yeah, thank you for watching. I know, like I said, it's a short episode this week, but definitely be prepared because we got a lot of content coming for you guys in the future. Check us out on Twitter. Look at our picks. Check us out on Spotify as well. And as always, thank you for watching. Happy betting, and always hammer the over. Signing off, and thank you for watching.
Peace.